Is the Oneplus N200 still worth it in 2023? Let's take a look. Let's start off with design. The back is made out of frosted plastic. The only colorway that is available for this phone is the blue colorway. This is what it sounds like. And although it's made of plastic, keep in mind that the newly released S23 is actually made of plastic as well. So this is not a big trade-off. Plus, glass breaks easier than plastic does. Thanks to the frosted finish, it is not a fingerprint magnet. Another thing to keep in mind is that at MSRP, this was around $180. So that means you can get this for around $150 nowadays, and you can probably get it for cheaper if you get it renewed. It also has a 3.5mm headphone jack. This also has a 13 megapixel wide camera alongside a 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel depth camera. It's pretty light, weighing at around 198 grams. So this is the screen itself, and one of the major problems is that it's only 720p. However, it is 90 Hz and has 405 pixels per inch, so very pixel dense, especially for a phone of this price category. The phone is relatively bright. Now let's get into the fingerprint scanner. It's relatively fast, as you can tell, and it's side mounted onto the right. Unfortunately, due to the fact that this has a Snapdragon 480 5G, it does run into some stutters and hiccups here and there, aka it's kind of slow sometimes, like running through the UI. Here you can't really tell, but trust me when I say that like going through UI is occasionally laggy. Now it's hard to capture on camera because this is a 30 FPS video, but this is 90 Hz. It's not the smoothest 90 Hz I've ever seen. However, again, due to the fact that this is $180, it's pretty good. Because this came out a while ago, this isn't running ColorOS, which is a benefit because it's actually running Oxygen OS. However, it's only on Android 12, and that is the final update. There will be no other updates after Android 12. I'm pretty sure there'll be some other security updates, but in terms of big Android updates, that's it. Yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind because I think for peace of mind, it's good to have a lot of Android updates. Again, this isn't the worst track record. 2 years is approximately around the average of what most budget phones offer, so it isn't horrific, but it's not good. Unfortunately, this only comes with 4 gigs of RAM. You can use the virtual expansion method where it basically pulls from your storage and it makes virtual RAM. It's not as fast as actual RAM, of course, but it works as a substitute. 4 gigs of RAM is just not enough today, and you can really feel it. But I think the main thing that's slowing this phone down is the Snapdragon 480. You can look at the boot up speeds on YouTube, and again, this isn't completely fair just due to the fact that YouTube runs mainly off Wi-Fi, not processing power, but it is pretty slow. One of the main benefits of using this phone is that it's running Oxygen OS, and Oxygen OS is very similar to stock Android, and that's good if you don't want a whole bunch of bloatware or you don't want to go for some Xiaomi alternative that's running MIUI. Mind you, MIUI isn't that bad, but this is for someone who wants as close to stock Android as you can in this price category. So the battery is actually insane. This lasted me 9 hours and 34 minutes, which is pretty crazy, and it's at 51%. And mind you, it was on battery saver, but I think any phone that can last 9 hours and 34 minutes and still be at 51% is pretty insane. And the main reason it does last this long is because it is underpowered. The Snapdragon 480 5G and the 4 gigs of RAM do not take up that much power. They don't draw as much power, and because you can't run super heavy apps, you're most likely just going to be using this for like web browsing and texting and calling. So again, this will be a powerhouse because it has a 5,000 mAh battery, which is another benefit. Now the speakers don't sound very good because they are bottom firing speakers, and they just kind of sound tinny with a lack of depth. They're not stereo, so let's get into the sound test. As you can tell from that sound test, it is very apparent that this has only one mono speaker facing down, and it's really easy to cover, as you can tell, so that's just something to keep in mind. So now we're gonna go on to the camera. Let's take a look at some of the photos I took, and we're gonna analyze them. I'm gonna compare side by side the Gcam versus stock camera app. So this is the stock camera app, and let's just take a look at the photos. But before we do that, I just want to show you the cameras. Basically, the top camera is the only one that matters, the wide angle, because the other ones are pretty bad. They're 2 megapixels, so although it's a triple camera setup, it's basically only one of them usable. So this is the photo taken by the stock camera. This is just a wide angle photo, no zooming or anything. And as you can tell, the details are really lost. It looks fuzzy and it's not true to life whatsoever. It's not saturated. It's actually really like dim and kind of gloomy. And the colors are way off, and edge detection is really bad. It kind of looks blurry. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like the stock camera. This is why I recommend using Gcam. It's an APK, so I'll show you that photo. But before we do that, this is a portrait mode photo on the stock camera app of the same plant. And if I'm being honest, the bokeh effect looks really nice, and the edge detection on this looks great. However, if everything else wasn't that bad, I would say this is a good photo, but everything else is awful, like really bad. Just because it nailed the bokeh effect doesn't mean that it's a good photo by any means.
This is me recording on the Oneplus Nord N200. This is just a quick recording, and yeah.
As you could tell, there was no OIS, it sounded really bad, and the video wasn't that good. By the way, this is another nighttime photo using the stock camera app, and the colors are off. It still looks like it's nighttime, and the edge detection's awful. Also, the colors are way off. Now this is the nighttime photo taken by Gcam. It is literally night and day, no pun intended. But the thing is, the colors are way better, the edge detection is way better, the overall photo and focus on what the object is insanely better. And again, this is the same camera, it's just the camera app. Now this is the photo of the plant, but using the wide angle lens on Google camera, aka Gcam. But yeah, it's way better. The colors are way more true to life. Honestly, this portrait doesn't have a very good bokeh effect, but as you can tell, the details there, and sure, it looks a little bit HDR-ish, but the colors are there, and the texture is there. Like, as you can tell by this tile, I'd much rather have an HDR looking thing than something that looks like it was taken on a potato. So I think the AI just shines here. As you can tell by looking at this pot, the edge detection looks great, and it really separates the foreground from the background. Just the overall image processing is way better on Gcam, as you can tell. It really does understand what foreground versus background is, whereas the Oneplus stock camera struggles.
This plant using the Nord N200.
To be fair, the actual virtual image stabilization looks way worse on Gcam than it does on the stock camera app. However, again, I would much rather have a shaky video that actually has detail in it than, again, a stabilized video that looks like it was taken on a potato. So here's my verdict. I think that this phone is not worth it in 2023. Shocker, right? But if I'm being honest, yeah, it's really not worth it just because of the super slow processing. As you could tell there, this Snapdragon 480 is super slow, and it's very noticeable on day-to-day usage, even if you're not a techie. And there's just way better options out there, such as the Moto G stylus, and there's other companies that are doing way better things, even at this price category, right? It's not as competitive as the $300 price range, but it still is competitive. So I would much rather go for a different phone with better build quality, and just an all-round good phone. But I guess this phone is good for people who want a good software experience, right? Although it's not going to be updated, the actual software Oxygen OS isn't bad whatsoever. So I think this is it's outdated and it's not worth it today. Also, something I forgot to mention, OnePlus has this little tile panel on when you scroll down from the top right hand corner, and it's kind of like Apple's little menu and stuff, the widget menu. So yeah, Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below because I'm going to respond to each and every one of your comments. If you have any questions about the phone, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below. Okay, see ya. Thanks for watching.